To the Cardy Show. Welcome back, and hope you all had a great week. Appreciate all the views on the Blue Jays breakfast, and just want to shout out a couple things from last week. A couple subscribers joined us, but one young man I want to point out in particular is my old buddy Gord Bloy and his young daughter subscribing to the Carter Show podcast YouTube channel. So appreciate the support and very glad to be a part of your baseball journey as we get going here. And lots to talk about. I really wanted to talk about what's going on in the western part of, well, I guess the American and National League. But I want to start with some Blue Jays news this week. Obviously, for those of you, of course, um, that follow me on the Instagram, the Carter Show podcast, uh, we talked about the Max Scherzer signing. Now, you can see, obviously, Scherzer is not listed currently in the depth chart on the Blue Jays website, but he will be very soon. I think he's going to report this weekend, from my understanding. Eric Lauer is a guy I want to talk about for a second because this really affects him. Lauer had a tremendous year last year, and 9-2, 3.18 ERA. He goes to arbitration, and he claims he loses the arbitration. I think the Blue Jays file at 4.4, and I think Lauer's camp filed, I want to say at 5.18, but don't quote me on that. Uh, the difference, Lauer stated, it was because the organization kept him in the bullpen at the end of the year. So he's frustrated about that. In my opinion, and I'll talk more about this today on Blue Jays Breakfast, but obviously there's only 2 to 3 minutes, was the Blue Jays should not have let this go to arbitration. This guy gave you 9 wins. Without those 9 wins, you don't win the American League East without his contribution. So, I don't understand what the big deal would have been to say, hey, you know what? Let's go five. Let's meet you, 4, 8, or five just for this year, and we can deal with a contract extension next year. Because if you remember 12 months ago, the Blue Jays let Ryan Yarbrough walk, and people were pissed, right upset about it. And obviously, Lauer came in and did what he did, looking to prove himself. And unfortunately, he's going to have to do that again. He didn't look great yesterday in Port Charlotte against the Rays, giving up the 3-run dinger. So we'll see what happens. But Scherzer coming back is big news. Obviously, the Hall of Famer looking to finish his career with the Blue Jays, unless he goes somewhere else next year. You never know with Max. But yeah, I'm thinking he's done after this year, and maybe there's a coaching position, maybe there's an advisor position. Max is not one of those guys I think that's going to leave Major League Baseball. So some interesting Blue Jays news for sure as we move on to the Angels of Anaheim. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And you can see here in the depth chart, as I'm just, for those of you listening on Spotify, just going through the team's websites and depth charts and finding some talking points. A couple former Blue Jays in the starting rotation. Yusei Kikuchi, obviously, it was pretty solid the last couple of years of his contract. He's going to be their opening day starter for sure. And then you see at the bottom end, Alek Manoah making some waves this week, saying he was a huge part of the World Series run. And obviously, all the power to him, and I wish him nothing but the best, but you weren't part of the World Series run because you were released before the team made the playoffs. So I don't know. And Atlanta didn't want him, but obviously he's healthy enough, hopefully, to have some success this year. But yeah, I don't know what it is with Alek. I don't know what to say. And we still don't know why the Jays decided to release him after he rehabbed last year. And I don't think that'll ever come out. That being said, you look at Kikuchi, you look at Grayson Rodriguez, another guy who throws 97, 98, who's had a big injury history. He came over from Baltimore in that Taylor Ward trade. Reed Detmers is a guy who threw a no-hitter, so he's got potential. So it's going to be a theme here with the Angels. So the Angels have their rotation, Jose Soriano, same situation, a guy looking to pick out your latch on, I guess. You know what I mean? And then you kind of look at their bullpen and you see a familiar name right here, number 68, Jordan Romano, who had a terrible year last year at the Phillies after signing that $8 million contract. He signs a $2 million deal to go to the Angels and hopefully help the back end of their bullpen. Robert Stevenson, a veteran, probably for now, I imagine gets a lot of the reps. Uh, Closing situation, you know what I'm saying? Another guy, veteran Drew Pomeranz, who's 37 this year, 38 this year. Um, a lefty, veteran lefty, Kirby Yates, another guy who's going to be 39. Um, Kid close, but probably will be a late inning option. Same with Brent Sears. A lot of veteran guys. The commonality of a lot of these guys, this is going to be their last shot. This is going to be their last chance to do something, especially Romano. I mean, he's got some years ahead of him. But time's running out. If you're 35, 36, and you're not getting guys out, I don't know what your options are, right? So retirement, Japan, obviously, he's not hurting for money. Um, Obviously, he's not playing for Team Canada in the World Baseball Classic, but it's going to be interesting because here's the other interesting part as we go to the coaching staff. Um, you see, they have a new manager, former catcher Kurt Suzuki, played with the Twins, the Angels, and the Nationals. But look who their bench coach is. Now, there's a reason why I want to bring this up. Obviously, John Gibbons, one of the best bullpen managers in all of baseball, in my opinion. I don't think there is a better manager, um, better person to manage a bullpen than Gibby. He knows how to do it. He knows how to. He understands matchups, but he's not. Obviously, he's not the analytically inclined guy, but he uses his eyes. Another guy that's really interesting is they brought in Mike Maddox, who's a legendary pitching coach. So I think that might pay dividends for them. I think. Some other guys, Max Stassi, of course, former catcher. Adam Eaton. I remember Adam Eaton was traded for Lucas Giolito in that big trade between the Nationals and White Sox. An old name that, for those of us grew up in the 90s, Brady Anderson, um, who might have taken some steroids, 58 home runs one year, is going to be their hitting coach. That's interesting. But back to Gibby, who is canned with the rest of the Mets coaching staff. We'll talk about the Mets next week. Perry Manassian, I feel bad for Perry Manassian because in order to keep his job, he's got to do what his crazy owner wants him to do. You know, I don't want to compare Artie Moreno to Harold Ballard. I mean, that probably is really extreme, but maybe a couple levels down. Remember, it was Moreno's request to let Ohtani play the whole season, right? Manassian could have traded Ohtani and, things could have been drastically different for them. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So I think obviously Manassian used to work for the Blue Jays. Gibby obviously was the manager for a long time. So that's where the connection went. And I think Gibby's going to be in charge of getting everything set up. Back in the old days, the bench coach would fill up the lineup cards, work with the manager, work with the pitching coach to figure out a pitching plan for the bullpen. Now that's more the analytical people that kind of do that now. But Gibby will be tasked, I believe, with helping Suzuki manage the bullpen until Suzuki gets a grasp of it. Suzuki's a smart guy. He's been around for a long time. When you look at the depth chart again, I want to point out a couple interesting things. Logan O'Hoppe, Travis d'Arnaud, former Blue Jays prospects. So, I mean, they're pretty solid in the catching part. Nolan Schanuel is a big bat. That guy's going to hit some home runs. Second base is a bit of a black hole, but I'm curious to see what Chris Taylor does. Taylor, of course, the legendary utility man for the Dodgers. Vaughn Grissom. When does Vaughn Grissom start to take some steps forward? Anthony Rendon is still on the team's list. I thought they were done, but obviously you're going to see a lot of Yoan Moncada at third base. Zach Neto is becoming an all-star for them. They got Josh Lowe. Yeah, Lowe. Brandon Lowe, Josh Lowe. Mike Trout is going to get some reps in center field. What's the over-under on Mike Trout this year? 60, 70 games? I mean, at some point, This guy's going to be 35 years old. You know, um, I don't know what you do with him. I don't know. And obviously, he's got a no trade clause. Obviously, he's got the contract. One of the greatest players to play in the game, but this guy's going to get the Don Mattingly treatment if he doesn't figure out a way to stay healthy for a year or two. He will not be entering Cooperstown, but Cooperstown, as we talked about last week, is a joke on its own. Um, Joe Adell, again, becoming an all star. Um, and Jorge Soler is really a guy who can hit a lot of home runs. So that's a good fit. So if you're looking for an under the radar pick in your third wild card in your fantasy league, the Angels are a 50-50 shot, I think. They've made some interesting moves. And they don't have a clear number one out of all this. Obviously, Kikuchi would be their guy. But Manoa's got potential. Rodriguez has potential. Detmers, I would think, is a good 3-4. And whoever, between these two, Soriano and Dana Cadden, I don't know who the hell that is. Sorry. Um, we'll see. We'll definitely see. So something to keep an eye on. Want to talk about the Athletics for a second of Sacramento/Las Vegas. And wouldn't it be freaking weird at whenever they get to Las Vegas to see people show up and not watching Oakland or an Athletics home game and not be thoroughly depressed. I mean, watching the games at the Coliseum or watching these games at Suter Health Park is just sad. I don't know. That's just me. So you look at their rotation. Obviously Luis Severino, I believe, would get the opening day assignment if he is healthy, of course, followed by Jeffrey Springs, and then it's kind of pick your poison from there. They're going to bring in Aaron Savali. Savali, the longtime pitcher for the Guardians. Again, and Eric Lauer should probably listen to this. Savali was crying about being a starter and being put into the bullpen, and the Brewers traded him to the White Sox last year. This is the thing. Money's going to come. World Series opportunities aren't always there. So I hope Eric kind of gets it straightened out and figures it out. But Savali will probably be in the middle of the rotation. JT Ginn's a guy I've heard a lot about, so he could be a factor, of course. Mason Barnett, Jack Perkins, same thing to round out their rotation. Um, I'm going to be honest. When I look at the bullpen for the Athletics, I don't see a ton of names that pop out of the page. Scott Barlow was in Kansas City for a while. Hogan Harris is a guy that he turned 30 this year, has been there for a little bit. Mark Leiter, of course, was with the Yankees last year, now with the Athletics. Their catching situation is interesting. Shea Langoliers is going to get the bulk of it. And you see Tyler Soderstrom. Soderstrom's going to play left field, but he's got the flexibility to catch. Soderstrom made some headlines on Christmas Day by accepting the 7-year, $86 million extension. I good business by the Athletics there to extend him. I don't know if I was Soderstrom, I probably would have waited, but that's okay. Nick Kurtz, man, this guy, I'm telling you, better than Giambi, minus the roids. He can swing. He can hit a lot of home runs. This team can hit a lot of home runs. You can't sleep on these guys either. Jeff McNeil comes over from obviously the Mets. He'll play second base for sure. Probably play some left. Max Muncy is a guy we hear a lot about. Andy Ibanez, interesting bench guy. I thought his career would have been a little bit better than it was, but still a very respectable bench guy you can put out there. Jacob Wilson, making headways. He's got another extension as well. And you see Soderstrom is going to be their starting left fielder with Brent Rooker. That's a power bat. He's the DH. Obviously, he's going to be there for a little bit. Canadian Denzel Clark is going to lead the charge for them in center field, leaping walls and stealing home runs. And Lawrence Butler is a very steady right fielder for them. So again, their pitching, their bullpen could use a little bit of work. They probably, at some point down the line within the next couple of years could sign a big starter or two, and that could be a problem. If they're going to extend the young guys, they got a good plan. They're going to start running into some money. Could be very, very interesting. Let's talk about the San Francisco Giants. The top two guys of their starting rotation, Robbie Ray is going to be healthy walking into his last year of the contract, former 2021 Blue Jays Cy Young Award winner. And of course, Logan Webb, as good as they come, I think. Adrian Hauser is absolutely a solid pickup. He tortured the Blue Jays last year. Tyler Mahle is going to need to try and be healthy this year. Health has always been his issue. And then any one of these guys, Wisenhunt, Rowe, McDonald, Seymour, will help the Giants in the back end of the rotation. Here's the bigger problem, unfortunately for them, is their bullpen. Ryan Walker is the closer right now. They traded Camilo Doval to the Yankees last year, and now it's just a who's who. Obviously, Seymour will be their long guy. Tristan Beck, could he be a factor for them? Randy Rodriguez, who knows when he'll be back? He had a really good year. Sam Hampton could be a very interesting factor for them. But there's not a lot of names that are going, oh man, these are the guys. The bridge to Ryan Walker is very, very wobbly, to put it nicely. Patrick Bailey, Daniel Susac, keep an eye on that guy. He was a prospect in the A's organization. Obviously, he would be 25 now, or he's 24, turning 25. So that was a good pickup. But obviously, Patrick Bailey is going to get the majority of the reps there. And of course, Rafael Devers, after not wanting to play first base with the Red Sox, is more than happy to play first base for the Giants. As a Blue Jays fan, I am not upset that he's playing with the Giants, of course. The Giants then signed Luis Uraz in free agency. And obviously, he's going to be their leadoff guy, right? So defensively, he's lost a step, though. And I think they're hoping between him and Devers on the right side, it'll balance out. Devers, listen, he wasn't the fleetest of foot, but I still think he's can get to those ground balls that maybe Araz does not get to. Matt Chapman, of course, we know he can do, former Blue Jay, Gold Glove third baseman. Willie Adames signed the big 7-year deal last year. He's going to continue to be their shortstop. And then their outfield, Elliot Ramos, Jung-Hoo Lee. Jung-Hoo Lee is probably going to start in right field, which, as you can see on their depth chart, would say that. Harrison Bader, they signed in the offseason, so he's going to man center field. He's found a little pop in his swing, which I think is really interesting. And obviously, they got Will Brennan and a whole bunch of other guys in their outfield. Bryce Eldridge will looks like he's going to get some of the reps at DH, but I would not be surprised to see him play some first and second to get a rise and get Devers off the field. So as far as the Giants go, again, I mean, their bullpen is going to be a problem. They got to address the bullpen. They haven't done that yet. And this is where I think the San Diego Padres have a bit of an advantage because they have, let's go right here, this guy here, Mason Miller. Pretty solid. Obviously, I was stunned when the Athletics traded him. And then Adrian Morejon's pretty solid. Jason Adam, terrible human being. However, he has lasted a long time. Jeremiah Estrada, of course, throws 100. And you get guys like veterans of Wandy Peralta, Yuki Matsui, lefty kind of guy. That's the guy you want to face Otani and Freeman. And then the starting rotation is kind of interesting, obviously, with Pivetta, Musgrove, Michael King. Michael King's an interesting guy. Obviously, he's in the last year of his deal. Could be a free agent for the 2027 season. You're kind of thrilled. You're absolutely thrilled if you're the Blue Jays that he did not resign to the Yankees. And if you're the Blue Jays, you're about to lose Kevin Gausman. And I'd be having a conversation with Mr. King because he is pretty solid. Yerman Marquez actually comes over from the Rockies, which I find is really interesting. He's going to probably be the 4-5 guy. Darvish is injured. Griffin Canning, is he healthy? What can he bring? The knuckleballer, Matt Waldron, again, another death piece. You see a commonality. A lot of teams trying to load up on starting pitching depth to get through the season. Talk to the bullpen for the Padres. Now, what are they going to do at first base? Need some water. Gavin Sheets. Do you bring Castellanos? Do you tell Castellanos he's playing first base? Cronenworth is staying at second now that Iraz is gone. Will Wagner, will he, excuse me, take a step forward? Of course, former Blue Jay. Machado, Bogarts. Bogarts is getting a bit older. I mean, you have a 33, 34-year-old shortstop. It's getting a bit older. Machado, too. Um, that is an old, that's a, by baseball standards today, that is an older side of the infield. Their outfield defense is actually getting pretty good. I think Ramon Laureano obviously came over from Baltimore last year, and they're going to put him in left field. There shouldn't be any problems. And then you got the exciting Jackson Merrill in center, and of course Tatis Jr. in right, who's figured out how to play right field, which is kind of cool. Excuse me. And they believe that Nick Castellanos will be their DH, but he could probably play some first base. And they brought in Miguel Andujar as well. Andujar probably can play some left, third, and first. Um, the Padres are one injury away, I think, from not making the playoffs. Whether it's on the offensive side or the starting side of the ball, Craig Stamen, former reliever, is now their manager. They've got two bench coaches, former Blue Jay Randy Knorr, former Blue Jay Ryan Goins, former Blue Jay Mike McCoy on their coaching staff as well. But I'll be curious to see what happens. And I was stunned that AJ Preller got an extension this year. Um, just a bit stunned. I am not going to lie to you. Next week, we're going to talk about the New York Mets and New York Yankees. I think that's definitely going to be a thing. And until then, have a great week. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, however the cool kids say it. I'm Brent Cardy. This is the Cardy Show. We'll talk to you next time.